All right, good morning everyone. And good morning everyone, and good morning Queensland, good morning to all of our... Oh, hang on. All right, we'll start that again. Good morning Queensland, good morning to all of our Facebook Live followers. And today is Are You OK Day, so it's a good opportunity to check on loved ones, friends, family, people who are doing it tough in other parts of Australia, and just check on them and say, are you okay? So I just wanted to give that reminder to everyone. Okay, so today we have one new locally acquired case, but we're not worried about it. It is part of the Beenleigh cluster, and it's the 10-year-old brother of that 4-year-old boy in Beenleigh. So it was detected in home quarantine, so absolutely no concerns about that. So we have 21 active cases, 13,560 tests in the past 24 hours. Another record for Queensland Health in the delivery of vaccines, 23,889, which is fantastic. We now have 54.28% of eligible Queenslanders with their first dose, and 35.81% of eligible Queenslanders are fully vaccinated. Yesterday, Boondall did 1,118 vaccines. See, lots of work's happening here today, which is fantastic to see. And I can also advise that from this weekend, Townsville, Mackay and Rockhampton will be accepting walk-ins. So we know how popular walk-in vaccines are for people at the moment. So in those regional areas, from this weekend, anybody will be able to walk in and get their vaccine, and we'll be looking at where we can expand that across other parts of Queensland in the coming weeks. So today our message again is, if you haven't been vaccinated, go and get vaccinated. I popped into my electorate office today and young Jackson had had his second Pfizer and proudly showed me his little sticker that said that he has now been fully vaccinated. And today we're at Metcash, and I want to thank Aaron for hosting us here today. Another big distribution centre, especially for IGA and Foodworks across Queensland. They also service up into Bamaga and Torres Strait, and with over 600 workers on site, 75% are now vaccinated. So that is absolutely terrific news. And since we started targeting our retail and distribution networks, we have vaccinated more than 3,520 workers. So you can see how serious the Queensland government is about making sure that we're getting out and getting our workers vaccinated. It's absolutely critical. And I'm very encouraged now with these record results of vaccination that Queensland Health is receiving nearly each day, that people understand that we need to get vaccinated as quickly as possible. We see record cases in New South Wales. We've seen another high number of cases announced in Victoria today. We need to be ready for when the next Delta cluster arrives in Queensland. And the best way you can protect yourself, your family and your community is to go and get vaccinated. I can't stress this enough. So please do that. Also too, I can advise that yesterday we vaccinated over 300 people at Ingham's Chicken at Murarrie and at Hilton Foods at Heathwood. 28 meatworks and food distribution centres have been identified as crucial by the Department of Agriculture, and we're progressively rolling that out. And there'll be more than 7,500 workers in these centres in total, and we're progressively rolling that out. So the last couple of, was it Monday, Tuesday, we had our vaccination people here at Metcash, and they're going to progressively roll out to these other high need areas to make sure our workers are getting vaccinated. And as Aaron said to me, people, had thought about it on the weekend and came in and said, I want to get vaccinated. So that is terrific news. That's the best thing that families can do to look after themselves and their loved ones, is to get vaccinated. So that's fantastic news today. Okay, so I will hand over to Dr. Young.
Thank you, Premier. So yes, excellent news again for Queensland. Due to the hard work of those 100 families who are still in quarantine because of the outbreak in the childcare centre, the case today is one of the children who's been in contact with the child who was positive. So they're a household contact, a sibling of that child. And that's of course what we want to see in an outbreak, that any new cases that come forward, and there's an ongoing risk we'll get more cases, but that any of those additional cases are in quarantine at the time they're detected and have spent their entire infectious period in quarantine, which this child has. So there is no risk here at all because of the work by those 100 families and our contact tracers getting hold of them all and getting them quickly into quarantine. Now, what we need to do going forward is we've got to all get vaccinated. So from Monday next week, any Queenslander who's 12 years of age or older is able to get vaccinated. So please come forward and get vaccinated. The more people who are vaccinated, the less the risk of an outbreak spreading so that it can't be controlled. Thank you.
So great news to see people still coming out in large numbers to get tested, and we remind all Queenslanders that no matter what symptoms, no matter how mild, please come out and get tested. And a record number of vaccinations, so 23,889 in the last 24 hours. So thank you to our amazing staff and volunteers at all of our vaccination hubs. As the Premier said, there's 3 new sites where we'll be taking the general public for walk-ins in Queensland, and we have another 17 sites that will be taking walk-ins for those priority groups. So if you are any one of the priority groups, whether you're a teacher, whether you're a distribution worker, whether you work in correctional services, health services, you can get prioritised and go in and walk into one of these other centres over the weekend. So we've got 21 sites open over the weekend, and we want people coming out and getting vaccinated as quickly as possible so we can see our economy opening up and our communities able to go out and do even more than we are now. And we know that we have the lowest restrictions in the country, and we're very proud of that, and that's because Queenslanders have been doing such a great job. And employers like the one we're standing in today, Metcash, we thank them for working with our vaccination teams who came on site this week for 2 days and offered everyone who was eligible to come forward and get vaccinated. And of course many had already gone and got vaccinated as well. And the team will be back in 3 weeks' time to give their second dose of vaccine to this staff. So we thank so many of the staff here at the Distribution Centre for getting vaccinated, because we know the role they play is so important to keep our food supply being distributed across the state and making sure that we have our grocery stores stocked up. Thanks.
Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the electorate of Woodridge in the city of Logan, the big engine of southeast Queensland. The work that is carried out here is absolutely critical to the functioning of business and the good functioning of the Queensland economy. But the work that's conducted here cannot be phoned in. You can't do it from home, you can't do it remotely, you can't do it in a Zoom call. The workers here have been working every single day in this distribution warehouse to keep goods being distributed around Queensland. Put simply, if the workers here don't turn up to work, there is no food in your fridge and there are no groceries in your pantry. They have done an absolutely phenomenal job during the entire period of the pandemic, moving goods and products throughout Queensland, not just in the southeast, but all the way up to the Torres Strait, small remote communities and every point in between. And many of those workers live in the electorate of Woodridge, and I want to express my thanks to them. Every Queenslander owes workers in facilities like this a great gratitude of thanks. We have not faltered, we have not stopped in the delivery of goods and services during the course of the pandemic, and the workers here have been absolutely critical to that. Which is why it's so important that so many of them have been vaccinated. When the call went out from the management here that they were going to bring the vaccines, to the facility, they had about 150 people who registered. On the day, about 300 people got vaccinated. That's a phenomenal a phenomenal response from workers. It just shows you when we've got the vaccines, when we've got the volume of vaccines and we take the vaccines to people, they get vaccinated. And that's the question for every Queenslander. Delta is coming. We heard earlier in this week, very sadly and very tragically, a 20-year-old unvaccinated man in New South Wales passed away. So when Delta comes knocking on your door, will you be ready? Will you be prepared? And the single best way to be prepared is to roll up your sleeve, to log on, to make a booking and to get a vaccination. That's the way you can keep yourself, your family, your community and Queensland safe.
Hello. So yesterday, 7,641 vehicles were intercepted at our borders, 99 turned around. Regrettably, we had to issue 5 on-the-spot fines for people not filling out the forms appropriately, trying to untruthfully get through and not abiding by the directions. So the warning is there. We're still doing 100% checking at our borders, so people really do need to do the right thing. We're seeing the returning Queenslanders start to kick into gear. So yesterday we had 10 people arrive that were relocating to Queensland, 115 coming in as returning Queenslanders. There's a further 206 relocators approved and 109 returning Queenslanders have approvals to come back, and we'll have quarantine rooms assured. And we're processing another 200 or so applications across both categories. So that system has kicked in and is working. Overall, we gave out 8 on-the-spot fines in addition to those 5 at our borders. So 1 at our air border, another person trying to get through when they should not, and some people that were failing to comply with the conditions of their detention. We handed out 13 masks and we did 44 business inspections, and all were compliant. So thank you for those businesses out there that daily are doing the right thing across the board, including ensuring that people can do their QR code entries. Thank you. I don't have the exact figure today for that, Lydia, but typically we were seeing over 1,000 or more per day, most of which were health workers. So that system has settled down quite well, and it's working quite efficiently. Thank you.
No, not yet, but I understand that my Deputy Premier is in discussions with the Deputy Premier of New South Wales. So as soon as we hear, we'll be reacting very quickly. Well, I have to wait and see what it is first. I'm not going to deal with hypotheticals. I understand the New South Wales Premier might be making some announcements in the next hour or so, so we'll wait to hear those, and we stand ready to respond.
Will that decision be made this afternoon?
Sorry?
Will that decision be made this afternoon?
I think it'll be made it depends when they lift, if they lift any restrictions. We'll wait and see what the announcement is, but we'll be working through those very quickly.
In terms of cases
from the Gold Coast are concerned, given that decision, given that it's only about 33% fully vaccinated?
Sorry?
The vaccination rate on the Gold Coast are concerned.
No, the figures I've seen, it varies. So my understanding is down near that southern part of the Gold Coast, they're basically in line with the rest of the state. From memory, around that Burleigh area as well, and a little bit further north. So the vaccination rates, they vary across the Gold Coast, but they're in line with the rest of the state.
Baby Rocker is stuck in New South Wales and is having trouble getting exemptions to Queensland and quarantine together. Are you happy with the way the quarantine exemption unit is working?
Look, I think that everyone wants to try their best, and everyone needs to work a bit harder. So my understanding is that this morning a senior clinician from Queensland Health has reached out to the family, and my understanding is that a resolution is being worked through with the family as quickly as possible. I mean, it is heartbreaking. I saw the family on morning TV just like everyone else did. It's absolutely tragic, and you know, it should have been progressed faster.
Is it a concern that these cases only seem to progress when they're raised in the media?
I think the problem there, Tim, is that there are just so many people applying for exemptions. And look, Queensland Health knows they need to do better, and they will do better.
Will they be allowed to quarantine?
They're working through these issues with the family. As you can appreciate, they have a very, very sick baby, and I think the clinicians will work through the family what is the best options, not just for the family but the little baby as well. I think they're working through all options with the family, so let's the clinicians work with the family.
Tanya, do you see families wanting to come to Queensland for bereavement issues or medical issues being part of their next transfer plan for home quarantine trial?
Look, I just say to Queenslanders, there is a large outbreak of Delta in New South Wales. We have strict measures in place across our borders to keep Queenslanders safe. Now, that's what Queenslanders are telling me. So we are trying our absolute hardest to keep Delta at bay for as long as we possibly can. That's why I've said there is this window of opportunity for people to get vaccinated. Now, in relation to compassionate and exemptions, they are handled by Queensland Health, but we don't want to see the virus spread in Queensland. So whilst compassion is needed with the individual cases with Queensland Health, we also need to make sure that we are also keeping Queenslanders safe. So it's a balancing act. I've spoken with the Health Minister, I've spoken with the DG, and the Director General is under no illusions that I expect there to be more done in this area. And if we need more people, we will get more people.
Just on home quarantine, the Prime Minister is writing to the state and territory leaders this week for their timelines. When will we see our home quarantine trial ramp up?
Well, I haven't seen the letter yet, Lydia, so let's get the letter, and I'm happy to have a look at the letter. But we're already trialling, we already have the trial for those minors that are returning home to their families, where the family has to quarantine with the minor in their home. We're trialling that. We have technology now that we are trialling. The results of the South Australian trial should be coming into National Cabinet soon. So we'll look at all of those options, and I think you'll see that progressively rolled out across the states.
In terms of cases, we're hearing talk of a possible positive case in home quarantine in regards to a sporting team. Is there anything to report on that front?
In relation to...
A potential case in a sporting team?
No, I'm not aware of that. We'll check that out for you, Tim. Yeah.
With 12-year-olds getting vaccinated from
Yes,
Monday, did
yes.
that come after your comments last week, or was that always the plan?
No, there was always the plan. National Cabinet looked at the plan about making sure that that 12 to 15-year-old age group was going to be the next. That's basically your high school students. And I think everybody who was involved in that and witnessed that Indooroopilly cluster saw how it was actually circulating around high school students. So they are, of course, at risk, and it is safe for them to have the vaccine. They've had all the clinical trials. It's been approved to be safe in Australia, and that's the next aim, is to make sure that that cohort gets vaccinated. And I'm encouraged. I think from memory yesterday we had the St Peter's boarders that were vaccinated at Boondall, and we'll see many more families now coming out and getting vaccinated.
There's some suggestion of vaccine passports to the actors. What do you think about as a concept? Do you support that?
Well, at the moment we don't have Delta in our community, so anyone can go along and see it. Look, I just think these are issues that need to be discussed at National Cabinet. I'm quite sure all options will come in, and we will give that due consideration. I think the first thing we're trying to resolve is how you have on your check-in app the ability to actually show that you have been vaccinated. So we're working through that technology at the moment. That's the next step I want to prioritise.
Premier, with the exemption system, you said that if you need more staff, you'll get them on.
Yep.
Isn't it clear with so many people having to go to the media to get this special exemption, to get the attention, that there is more people...
Well, what I say to you, there is 80 people working in this unit. It is not a small unit by any means in government. There are 80 people whose primary job is to work on exemptions. The reason we have an exemptions unit is because there are stay-at-home orders in New South Wales and in Victoria because they have a Delta outbreak. So my job is to keep Queenslanders safe. That's my job. That's why we have the hard border closure, the hard border line in place in this state with New South Wales and with Victoria, is because there is a massive outbreak. You know, I think they're up to 30,000? 30,000 cases in New South Wales. As I said the other day, it is a clear and present danger to Queensland. So we're keeping Queenslanders safe, but we also acknowledge that there are people who have, extenuating needs, whether it be the loss of loved ones, visiting terminally ill family members. So all of these issues are being dealt with by a large unit, but if we need more people in that unit, we will expand that unit. The reason we have that unit is because of the massive outbreak of Delta in New South Wales. There'd be hundreds. We'll get that for you. Yeah.
80 is a lot, I agree, but I'm asking, are there enough people?
I've said if we need more, we'll put more there.
You think we need more?
Well, that's a matter for health, so Queensland Health and the Director General are looking at that.
Premier, thousands of Queenslanders were left disappointed with SEQ Water winning their appeal to the Queensland floods. Do you personally agree with their decision to appeal?
I can't comment on the courts, and no one would expect me to comment on the court decision. But what I will say is that a lot of people have gone through a lot of personal trauma in relation to the floods. And as I said yesterday, the state government did not appeal, so there's a settlement there. But in relation to this issue, I would hope that it is dealt with as quickly as possible for people.
I know a few weeks ago, a lot of people on the Gold Coast were calling for you to come down and take a tour of the border. Is there any update? Are you planning on going down there anytime soon?
I'll see when my schedule permits it, but I've already had my police minister down there. We've already had the small business minister. I've asked the treasurer to work with the small business minister and the deputy premier, and of course we're waiting to see the announcement out of New South Wales as well. Yep.
You were saying yesterday about there being positive sewage results on and off in Byron Bay. Do you think is that enough of a concern for you not to open down to Byron Bay if New South Wales relaxes their restrictions?
I think we've just got to wait and see what New South Wales decides to do. That's critical. And as I've always said, it's the state where people are that can make the best decision as to where the risks are. So I understand that New South Wales will be announcing their decision at their press conference at 11 o'clock.
So when you say that, do you have enough faith in New South Wales if they say it's okay to open up?
Yes, of course I do. I've always said that. So the reason I was concerned about all of those scenes that were going on in Tweed is New South Wales thought the issue was so serious that they asked everyone who lived in Tweed to stay at home. So they had made that decision, and then you saw that disregard of that requirement, and that's what concerned me, that New South Wales had made a decision and people weren't following that decision. So yes, I've always said other states make decisions, and those are the decisions that I put the most weight on.
So if they say it's okay to open up, you're happy to open up?
It depends what they do and what local government areas are covered, and of course I'll be looking at that. Well, at the moment we have the same restrictions across the whole state, except there's an increased requirement to wear masks down in the southeast corner. So no, I don't think there'll be any easing of restrictions, but that's something, of course, that the Premier would consider.